Well, I think that's progress. So you're saying, I'm looking at a news article here published August 31, 2022, saying that PACAF has sent this letter around. Leaders of the base are instructed, do not use pronouns, age, race, etc. And they go on. The unauthorized examples of unauthorized language are male, female, youngest, oldest, he, she. But you're saying that was not an official communication. That has not been a directive.
That is not.
You ever watch something so unbelievable that you actually pause the screen and wonder, wait, is this real life? Or did someone accidentally hand me a rejected SNL sketch? Because that is exactly how I felt watching what went down in this Senate hearing. While America's rivals are building hypersonic missiles and expanding their influence, our military leadership was caught arguing about whether soldiers can say he or she. And right in the middle of this political circus stands one man, Senator Josh Hawley, the only person in the room acting like the adults used to act. Before I go any further, let me drop one of my own political proverbs, something I always say: a nation isn't defeated when enemies advance. It's defeated when its leaders forget what matters. And today, we're seeing exactly what that looks like. But don't worry, I'm going to break all of this down in a way that will not just inform you, but relax you, entertain you, and make you think, grab a drink, sit back, take a breath. Because this is one of those stories that deserves your full attention. Welcome, my friends, to Liberty Thinking, the channel where truth is uncensored, clarity is compulsory, and nothing gets swept under the Pentagon rug. And before we dive in, back-end index pointing right, if you want more deep dive breakdowns like this, hit like, share the video, and subscribe. We don't sugarcoat. We don't bow. We speak truth now. Let's dive in.
General Stitt, let me talk with you. Let me start with you if I could. I have spoken repeatedly with the Secretary of the Army about replacing aging homes at Fort Leonard Wood in my home state. And there is no doubt in my mind that service members deserve better than they're getting right now. I was just there a few weeks ago. I toured the homes myself. I spoke to residents. I spoke to spouses. I spoke to children who lived in the homes. These homes need to be replaced. What concerns me is the Army doesn't seem to have a plan to replace this aging housing stock. So let me just ask you this. In your opinion, how does the availability, or maybe lack of availability, of quality military housing for service members and their families affect recruiting and retention?
Senator Hawley, good afternoon. The Army takes the care and quality of life of all of our service members and their families very seriously. So we are making and committed to investing in our housing within not just that, but within our daycare centers, child care, offering opportunities, expanding beyond that for spousal employment, to put kind of a whole package on the table to ensure that our facilities and our care and commitment towards family members is first class.
When you say a whole package, when will we be seeing this package?
Senator, we continue to work on it, and I can take that question for the record, please.
Well, that's fine. I mean, but let me just say again, for the record, I've said this in the full committee, I'll say it again here, that I think we're past the point of continuing to kick this down the road. I mean, this is a problem now. Frankly, at Fort Leonard Wood, it was a problem a decade ago. But listen, I've been there. I mean, I've seen it myself. I've talked to the service members myself. I've been in their houses. I've been in their kitchens. I've looked at their bathrooms where there's mold growing. I've seen that they don't have places for their kids. I've seen the substandard living conditions, and it just isn't acceptable, General. You know what? I promised those service members that I'd be a royal pain in the you-know-what until something changed. So I'm keeping that commitment, and I'm going to continue it until something changes. And frankly, I've heard this now for, it's going on 2 years. I've only been in the Senate 3, but I've heard it continuously that, well, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. Well, at Fort Leonard Wood, we haven't gotten to it. And I bet, if we went around the table here, I bet that the other members of the subcommittee would have the same situation in their state. So I'll give you the question for the record, but I just want to put on notice again, and you can take this back, that I want to see some progress on this, and I want to see it soon. And what I don't want to see are any more commitments from the Army that they're going to spend X number of dollars. This happened last year. We're going to commit X number of dollars to Fort Leonard Wood, and then as it turns out, $0 were spent on housing. I'm still ticked off about that, and I don't want to see it happen again, and I want to see progress made. So that's my piece. I think you understand where I'm coming from. General Miller, let me come to you. Can you help me with something here? Anderson Air Force Base, I understand, this is in Guam, of course. Leaders there recently received an official email that prohibited them from using pronouns or descriptors like he, she, youngest, oldest, male, or female. Why is that? I mean, what's going on?
Senator Hawley, thank you for that question. Actually, that is, we've been talking a lot about that because it was an email, from my understanding, that went out locally from one of the commanders there, and I don't remember at what level. I don't know if it was a group commander or the wing commander there. I believe that it was a Facebook post that went out based on a question. It is not the Air Force policy to not use pronouns, and so I think it was a social media, exacerbated by individuals that said that they were directed for that.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's progress. So you're saying, I'm looking at a news article here published August 31, 2022, saying that PACAF has sent this letter around. Leaders of the base are instructed, do not use pronouns, age, race, etc. And they go on. The unauthorized examples of unauthorized language are male, female, youngest, oldest, he, she. But you're saying that was not an official communication. That has not been a directive.
That is not an official communication from the HAF. Correct.
Okay. And so your position to me is today that is not policy and that they have not been so instructed.
That is correct.
This is a social media
policy
kerfuffle. I mean, this is not real. It's not happening.
I don't know if it's not happening, but it is not an official policy from the Department of the Air Force.
Okay.
This hearing begins with something so basic, so fundamental, that it should make every American furious. Our service members, people willing to die for this country, are living in homes filled with mold, collapsing walls, and unsafe conditions. Senator Josh Hawley didn't hear about this from a PowerPoint presentation. He went there. He walked through the homes. He toured the kitchens and bathrooms. He saw the mold spreading across ceilings. He talked to military families whose kids are sleeping next to growing black spores. Let me drop another one of my political proverbs here. If a nation feeds its soldiers promises instead of shelter, the battle is lost before the first shot is fired. And that's exactly what's happening. Because for years, military leadership has promised. We're investing. We're working on it. We're developing a package. A package? These families don't need a package. They need a functional roof, and Hawley, rightfully, blew the whistle on something shameful. The Army promised money last year, but spent zero. Not a penny. Not a dollar. Zero. This is why Hawley said he'd be a royal pain until real change happens. And, honestly, we need leaders willing to be pains. We need leaders who fight like their nation actually depends on it, because it does. Let me explain why this problem exists, that it's not because America is broke. It's not because repairs are impossible. It's not because nobody has a plan. It's because the Pentagon has become a bureaucratic empire where memos matter more than missions. Optics matter more than outcomes. And task forces matter more than troops. Here's a truth I always say. When leaders lose the fear of failing, they start failing without fear. That's why they allow these conditions to continue. Nobody gets fired. Nobody is held accountable. The machine just grinds on while families breathe mold. And that is what makes Hawley's approach refreshing. He is not playing politician. He's playing protector. Then, the hearing takes a turn that feels like a parody. Hawley turns to Lieutenant General Caroline M. Miller and brings up a report from Anderson Air Force Base in Guam claiming leaders were told, "Don't say he. Don't say she. Don't say male. Don't say female. Don't say youngest or oldest." Why? Because apparently it would increase lethality and improve recruiting. Let me repeat. Someone in military leadership argued that avoiding pronouns will make our troops more lethal. That if your jaw dropped, trust me, mine hit the floor. General Miller quickly denies its official policy. She says a local commander sent the message. Social media blew it up. But here's the part that nobody wants to talk about. The fact that any commander thought banning pronouns helps win wars is the real problem. That mindset doesn't appear out of nowhere. It grows in environments where symbolism matters more than strength, and where leadership fears offending more than they fear enemies. Here's another one of my political proverbs. A military that fights words instead of enemies will soon fight enemies with words. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Hawley asks the question that absolutely destroys the nonsense. How does banning he and she help with lethality? Boom. Silence. Confusion. Excuses. And you know why? Because there is no logical answer. You cannot win wars with HR vocabulary lists. You cannot defend a nation with linguistic sensitivity training. And you certainly cannot build a lethal force by pretending biology doesn't exist. This is why Hawley looked like the only sane person in the room. He cut through the fog like a razor. And I said this the moment I saw it. Courage isn't loud, it's persistent. And Hawley is the only one persistent enough to drag truth into the light. Here's my full, unfiltered opinion. This hearing proves that parts of our military leadership have forgotten what the military is actually for, that it's not for virtue signaling. It's not for social engineering. And it sure as hell isn't for grammar experiments. IT is for defending the United States. Full stop. Josh Hawley understands that. And that's why he stands out. Not because he's perfect, but because he prioritizes reality. Here's what I believe the solution is: thinking outside the box. 1. Shift power away from bureaucratic leadership and back to field-experienced officers. People who have smelled gunpowder, not polished conference tables, should lead. Point 2. Create mandatory transparency reports for base housing, published publicly every quarter. If families live in mold, America should know. Point 3. Ban ideological experiments within the military chain of command. Training should focus on war fighting, not word policing. Point 4. Tie promotions to readiness metrics, not administrative checklists. And here's a final political proverb I'll leave you with. A nation that prepares for offense while its leaders prepare for applause is a nation preparing for defeat. This hearing wasn't a fluke. It was a warning flare, a reminder that our military's strength doesn't just depend on weapons. It depends on leadership. Senator Josh Hawley was the only one brave enough to say, enough. And honestly, we need 10 more like him. Now I want to hear from you. Backhand index pointing right. Do you think banning pronouns has any place in the military? Backhand index pointing right. Do you think leadership has lost focus? Backhand index pointing right. Is Hawley right to push this hard? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everything you write. And if you want more unfiltered truth, more bold analysis, and more political breakdowns that actually respect your intelligence, Backhand index pointing right, like the video. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe to Liberty Thinking. Backhand index pointing right, share this video with someone who needs to wake up. Until next time, stay aware, stay free, stay thinking. This is Liberty Thinking, where truth has no muzzle.